Welcome, everyone, to episode 6 of Sportishness.
Between weeks 13 and 14. Week 13 is wrapped up, and we're starting week 14 tomorrow, actually, with the Broncos game.
That's right. We had a little extra thing to think about this week. We need a little extra preparation. So, basically, because we, things are now locked up in the AFC West, we've decided we're going to change the format up a little bit through the balance of the season. But first, let's talk about those the wins for the.
Sure. Just to wrap up what we've been doing all season, going over the picks. Last week we had the Chiefs versus the Panthers. You called that one at Chiefs 19, Panthers 14. I said Chiefs 17, 14. The final was actually 27-21, so a yes and a yes, I think, on that one. We were only off by a little bit.
And also, let's take a moment of silence for Kansas City. Horrible tragedy. And there has been miles of stuff said about how horrible that situation was. But since this is a sports show, I would like to add, it's remarkable to me that these guys pulled together and actually pulled a win out.
Yeah.
But of course, that's the least important thing to really say about the whole situation.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
So, yeah, and pundits better than us, I think, have had a lot to say on that. Bob Costas, a lot of people. So yeah. I don't think we are even qualified to add on top of that. The next game up is Raiders versus the Browns, and this is actually a rare case. I think this is only the second time this year that you and I have disagreed on a pick, at least as far as who's going to win. So I had the Raiders winning. You had the Browns winning. You had the Browns winning 27-23. I had Oakland winning 23-16, and it turned out that the Browns did win 20-17. So no for me, and a yes for you, which I think puts you a little bit ahead on the curve now.
Go figure.
Next game is Chargers versus the Bengals, and we actually both picked these pretty close. I had Bengals 34-13. You had them 31-17. And unfortunately, the score for us was 13-10. So both teams definitely didn't score as many points, but we did get the winners right. So that gets us a meh and a meh. That's our mess for this week. And for us, the important game, the Broncos versus the Buccaneers. You had picked 34-23. I had picked 34-24, and the final actually was 31-23 with the Broncos winning. So you and I were really close on that one. So a definite yes. And a definite yes. And it was funny how basically the last quarter of that game, it all came together for us for our pick.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure I necessarily wanted the kind of convergence that it took to get our scores so damn close to what they ended up being. But
to be quick on this one, because we want to get right into the playoffs, Denver, stop throwing the easy one pick every game.
Right.
You got to stop doing that. Hold on to the football. And learn how to defend the screen pass. If you can just get those elements together, will we be a lot better in the stretch?
And Tampa, what happened in the last half of the game? You completely abdicated the center of the field. Between the numbers, the Broncos could do no wrong. They ate your lunch. And I really honestly expected a better performance out of you guys.
Yeah, they played hard for a half, and I think we pulled away from them.
Right. All right, so as we mentioned at the opening, we're going to change up the format a bit. We're going to actually focus on the larger and more interesting story of the entire playoffs, basically the top 6 seeds, and continue to work the implications of the wins and losses. And boy, there have been, in just 1 week, a lot of interesting changes that have happened.
And the reason that we're doing this is because, for all intents and purposes, Denver's locked up the division. Oakland and Kansas City are mathematically eliminated at this point. The only other team in the AFC West that has a chance is the Chargers, and it's one of these, they have to win everything, and everybody else almost certainly has to lose almost everything. So we don't really feel that the AFC West has any interest at all.
Well, now, one of the most interesting things, of course, is how, we've been observing and pundits around the league have been observing how quickly it seems like the playoff picture is gelling. I mean, right now, as it stands, 3 of the playoff slots are already gone on the AFC side. So everybody else in the conference is now playing for just 3 slots.
Yep.
On the NFC side, of course, it's, more of a sloppy Sally kind of mess, but still, Atlanta still has, their spot locked up. So, really at this point, I've compiled kind of a list of some questions that are lurking in my mind that I think are going to be answered. And actually, I've started thinking about these next 2 weeks as being like a kind of pre-playoffs, a pre-offs, if you will. Because basically some of the most important games of the entire season, I think, are going to be happening this weekend and next weekend. Absolutely, by far and away, the most interesting game is going to be the Monday night game, in my opinion, of the Houston Texans facing the New England Patriots.
And this really has a lot of implications. Most every game, of course, does at this point, but it has a lot of implications for the AFC. Here's how we laid it out last week, and basically this is the 1 and 2 team going at each other. Right. I think Houston's pretty safe, but New England is still being chased by a lot of teams for that 2 seed, especially including the Broncos. Mm-hmm. So New England has to stay hot. They have to keep winning games.
Right.
So, like you say, this is definitely a pre-off game. New England loses this one, and all of a sudden, because they're in basically a 3-way tie at 9-3 right now with Baltimore and the Broncos. Yeah. All of a sudden, that could shake it up. Also, they could drop right to the 4 seed if other things play out. So,
wouldn't that be funny? and the funny thing is that when we did the show last week, New England was actually in the 3 seed.
That's right.
So, what a difference a week can make. Okay, so with those playoff standings in mind, I've been thinking a lot about how these pre-off games are going to really kind of answer some questions.
We own that, by the way.
Yes, we do.
So
trademark,
game,
copyright,
playoffs, NFL, pre-off. That's us.
Pre-off.
We got there first.
That's right. Okay, so I've got some really big questions in mind. First off, are the Texans for real? And my question about the Texans is that through the season, they've had a lot of, big, consistent, gnarly, beautiful wins. But then they got spanked by Green Bay, half a season ago. And then, they've had a couple of these overtime wins, but, squeakers against, weak sister teams. So you got some thoughts about that?
Yeah, Houston's a hard team to read. And if any team can have their record, I think they're at 11-1 right now.
Yeah.
And be kind of nobody's talking about them team. The Texans, kind of funny enough, are that team. They're not getting as much press as I think as say New England's getting with a worse record right now. It's hard to tell with where the Texans are out, but I do believe or where they're at. But I do believe when you can win those close games and you win them consistently, that says something about your team.
Yeah.
And any team can play ugly. I mean, you can look at the Giants. The Giants are the definition of win ugly. When they win ugly. They never. It's a rare day when they can win 31-13. I think the Texans are a bit in that mode. They've kind of gotten that slump mid-season. But yeah, I think they're a legitimate team. Anybody that they face, any of the other teams that will make it into the playoff, they'll get run for their money.
Right. Well, they've got. They've got what I believe to be, the more important game of, these pre-offs, these unofficial pre-offs, playing the Pats. And
well, that could literally be the conference. When they play if the Patriots get the 2 seed, Houston gets the 1 seed. That is, in essence, if both teams advance all the way, that's the conference game.
Right.
1 plays 2, last game on the conference. So this is a great chance for both teams to see where they are, and for us to finally kind of be able to measure what are right now statistically the best 2 teams in the league.
Yeah, and they are so evenly matched. I mean, when you look at every major statistical category, I mean they are literally within just a few percentage points of each other. It's crazy. So this is probably the game of the season, actually.
Yeah, I would agree. This is one of these great lucky matchups.
Right. So then related to that are the Patriots for real? And we're going to learn. The thing about it is that the Patriots, you've got the mastermind, Bill Belichick. You've got the incredible talent of Brady, who can hardly close his fist for all the rings that are decorating his hands. But the other side of it is the game I watched this weekend against Miami. I thought Miami actually put up some fight. Patriots didn't look good, and it wasn't them just having a bad day. The Miami helped them to have a bad day.
I agree. Yeah, but they still managed to win it. They played ugly. They made a lot of mistakes, and yet they still managed to make the drives they had to make, and they won it. And again, that's in the NFL, it's a game of inches.
Yeah,
and they consistently convert their inches. The Patriots have 2 hard games left. Mm-hmm. So it's I think they got 2 games that are very winnable. and 2 games I think they'll be contended. So in a row for them, actually. So, the San Francisco game after this. So both this weekend and then the San Francisco game. Where are the Patriots at? I think we'll know by that point for sure.
Absolutely. The next big question is, are the Broncos for real? And really, this is a two-part thing. One is, are they for real in being able to maintain their play standards against a team who's in a game that's absolutely meaningless to them now against Oakland?
Division meaningless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's meaningful in the sense that all the wins losses influence their seeding ultimately in the AFC. But then, of course, Baltimore in Week 15 next week. So, are they for real?
I don't think anybody knows. I don't think the Broncos know. That's the truth of the matter. They had the toughest schedule in the first quarter of the season, statistically, and they had the easiest schedule since.
Right.
So, and they lost early.
Right.
But again, we've talked about this episode after episode. You take the Broncos now and you stick them on the field. Back in week 1 or 2, who knows what results you get.
Exactly.
I don't think we know this week either.
Yeah.
They could lose 40-0 against Oakland, and it could mean nothing as far as their playoff hopes. They still get the 4 seed. They work their way into the playoffs. It's a whole new season once you're there. But I think that the key is still 2 weeks away for them. The Baltimore game. Since Baltimore lost against the Steelers last week, all of a sudden that's a key game. The person who wins that game, the team that wins that game, I think seats past the other team. They both have about the same difficulty of remaining games. So the winner of that game is probably the 3, and with luck, maybe the 2.
And actually, that's the final major question that I really have for the AFC. I mean, the Ravens losing to a depleted and very wobbly Pittsburgh raises some real questions about whether or not they deserve anything better than a 4th seed in these playoffs.
Ever since they lost Ray Lewis, they certainly haven't been the same team, but on both sides of the ball. Ray Lewis only plays defense. He's a linebacker. Right. He doesn't play quarterback or tight end. He doesn't drop balls or overthrow passes, or guard the quarterback. So I don't know what's going on with the Ravens. Suggs is hurt. He's going to try to play through it. Ray Lewis, there's some discussion about when they want to slot him back in.
Right.
And
of course, Flacco. I mean, who knows what you're going to get any Sunday.
So this week, Baltimore plays the Redskins.
Right.
And both teams need wins to stay in contention. Either team loses, it reseeds everybody. Washington, I think, is the hungrier team right now. I think they've all of a sudden found themselves. Like the Giants, they're winning ugly. But they do manage to ratchet out wins. They have a very inventive offense. Kind of a hybrid college/pro offense right now. It's confusing the league. But Baltimore, I think, has a chance to prove themselves on the defensive side of the ball this weekend. But I don't think we're going to know where they are as a complete team until, again,
they face the Broncos.
Until they face the Broncos, because that really does seed everything going downrange. So who knows?
Well, I have to say, I despite the fact that Pittsburgh won against the Ravens, and I still think that the Ravens are the superior team, to Pittsburgh. I really am pretty dim on Pittsburgh and its role in the playoffs. Absolutely. I mean, it still technically ranks in there, but yeah.
So, last week we were talking about, I think, 8 teams in the AFC that we felt still had a legitimate, shot at making its way into the postseason. But based on how things shook out, last week, I think we're down to 7. I think the Bengals are kind of that team that we've been talking about, ever since that Broncos game. They've been just playing their hearts out, winning games. And they have worked their way right now into the 7th seed, and they're tied with the 6th seed, Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh is having some problems right now.
Right.
So... But that's it. Out of the 16 teams in the AFC, there were only 7 that have any chance at all. The Jets, those other teams, barring some, those teams don't have any control over their destiny. No matter how well they do till the end of the season, they have to depend on lots of other teams losing lots of games and interesting combinations for them to even be able to slot in.
Right.
So I just don't really think there's much else to talk about.
Well, switching gears here over to the NFC, which is, of course, still the most muddled situation. So, here's what we said about it last week.
And you and I are pretty close. I think we just had Green Bay and Chicago flipped over.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I had I think Green Bay actually win in the division at this point,
and the Bears losing. I had the other way around.
And hey, pat myself on the back. Right now, the actual real standings have Green Bay.
We're gonna whip out the cheering crowd. Look
yes.
at that. Oh, they're cheering for him. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
That's only the second time this season we whipped out the cheering crowd.
Yes. Okay, so my biggest question actually right now is because the NFC is such a muddle. The only team that kind of stands out from the muddle are the Falcons. But the Falcons this year have had one ugly, tight game after another, and I just have these unsettled doubts about them. And so, are they for real? Are these damn Falcons for real? I don't know.
The NFC has been a lot harder fought this year for interconference games and division games. It's hard to tell. You look at them. Hey, they're 11-1 record. Did they earn it? They absolutely did earn it. They you can't say, oh yeah, we got lucky in this game. I think they've clearly earned everyone they got. I don't think they are a team that people are going, oh, they're the Super Bowl favorites. I don't think the Vegas bookies are lining up huge odds right now. I think they've clearly earned their playoff spot. I think they've clearly earned their bye. But I'm not 100% sure that they're going to go very deep in the playoffs. They're like the Broncos for me right now. I don't know who they are.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, in theory, I don't care about Cam Newton, but they should stomp on Carolina this weekend.
Yes.
Regardless of what Cam Newton tries to do.
Regardless, yes.
I mean, it should be like a 45-14 blowout. But it won't be.
True. I mean, yeah, it's going to be pretty close. I agree that they have a tendency to let teams hang around.
Yeah.
That's not a great sign. That's not a dominating team. So I think for the Falcons, the big game for them is when they host the Giants in 2 weeks. Because the Giants, as ugly as a team as they are, I think right now they're Super Bowl champions until somebody beats them.
Right.
Until they lose out of the season. And they have played tough for the most part. So you go to you bring the Giants in your house, and if when the playoffs are on the line, they're fighting for a playoff spot too. If they beat the Giants up convincingly, then I've got more faith in the Falcons. If it's another ugly Giants game and the Falcons barely manage to win or lose, then I don't know. It just means there's a lot of parity in the NFC, and no matter where you slot in, any team can knock off any other team, and who knows. So I don't really see the Falcons being, this incredible team that's guaranteed to go deep.
Well, I will say this. In the spirit of, the kind of pre-offs theme here, I think that if the Falcons managed to lose this game to Carolina, it would raise enormous red flags for me, because that really says a lot about their mental state, not being prepared to play every Sunday regardless of their opponent. Right. Which, of course, is the kind of mental state they're going to need to get through the playoffs. Anyway, enough said about them. I just feel like that 11-1 record is living the lie.
Sometimes you get reasonably easy schedules in a weak conference or a division, and off you go.
Yeah. So. Well, the next big question, of course, and this really wasn't even a question until recently, is the 49ers. I mean, talk about making life more difficult for no real good reason.
I agree.
Are they for real now? Can we regard them as being for real with this quarterback controversy?
Yeah, it's a completely internally generated for no reason whatsoever that anybody else can seem to figure out. Jim Harbaugh, whatever. Harbaugh. Mess.
Right.
I'm not sure why this has happened, but you take a team that's working as a unit, you get a quarterback in to replace the guy that's hurt who does just as good of a job. That's great. You've got a deep bench when it comes to the quarterback position. You stick Alex Smith right back on the field and you go to work.
Right.
The can of worms that he has opened up, and he's got to know this as a head coach, is now there is a gap in trust between the players and the coaching staff. Any player playing for the San Francisco 49ers knows that he can be yanked after an injury, not by somebody who's playing that much better than him. Right. Some unknown guy who steps into the position and all of a sudden, hey, wow, he's a superstar. Right. But just replace anybody who plays as well as him.
Right.
What's going to happen? Players are going to play hurt. They're going to play injured. and that's going to make things worse. So as long as the 49ers keep winning, I don't think this quarterback thing hurts them. But the second inside of a game or after a game where things go wrong, they lose bad, or the score is going against them inside of a game, I think we'll see the 49ers they'll fly apart.
Well, I have to say, at this point, I think that Jim Harbaugh has created such bad juju over this that I really would like to see them get punished for what is in this time when we're so concerned about all these people who are suffering repetitive head injuries, profound concussions, and the fact that the only thing that Smith did was get injured to lose his starting position. This is just stinking to high heaven, and I really think that it creates some doubts about whether or not they're a contender team. Nothing against Kaepernick either. I mean, he's obviously a good player, but I mean, I have heard nothing out of the 49ers organization that says that Kaepernick is that much better than Alex Smith, and I can think of a third of the teams in the league would sell their firstborn child to get a quarterback of Smith's quality to be their starter.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is...
It's a mess, and we, like you, I mean, I don't want everyone to see. San Francisco, the 49ers are an organization with a pretty proud history. They've won their fair share of Super Bowls, but this is just this is a rotten decision. I think it hurts the league as a whole.
Yeah.
The rule is, and it's been said over and over and over again, by players and coaches, is you don't lose your starting position to injury.
Yeah.
And there's an incentive in that. Hey, if you're hurt, get off the field.
Right.
Get better, then come back. Your job will be here waiting for you. And a coach that doesn't respect that, I think, is going to cause problems. If, the first time he has a bad season, and like we know, you and I talked off show about this, but when you sow the seeds of distrust, and the organization starts falling apart, you hear it year after year after year. Hey, the coach lost the team.
Right.
The players aren't playing for the coach anymore. He has set himself up for that. The players now know officially that Jim cares nothing about his players at all.
Right.
That they're just pieces of meat to be slotted on the field in the X and O spots to do their job. And there are coaches that have coached in the past. We have coaches in the league right now that are pretty famous for that. And he joins their ranks, and that's unfortunate.
So I think that now with the 49ers and the mired in their situation, I think it opens the door for the legitimate question: are the Packers not just potentially going to take their division, but could they be number 2 seed material?
It's possible. You don't want to talk about a team that's played inconsistent? That's the Packers. You just don't know who's going to show up. They have been good the last few years. They've made their playoff run. They've made their Super Bowl run.
Aaron Rodgers is clearly an elite quarterback.
He is definitely the real deal. But they, just week to week, you just don't know what they're going to get out of them. I would not be stunned if we got to week 18 and they weren't even in the playoff hunt. That's how unsure I'm about the Packers. I don't know what they're going to do. You look downrange on their schedule, and they've got 2 tough games left, both for division games. So where they sit, I think, is how well they respond inside their division at this point.
Right.
Where they go in the playoffs, like the rest of the NFC, I have no clue.
Well, and then that brings up the related question: are the Bears for real? The Bears are looking a bit depleted right now. You have Jay Cutler coming back, from concussion, and he's starting to get up to Steve Young territory with a number of concussions he's had. Are they for real? I feel like they're wobbling here towards the end.
Yeah, they took a really tough loss this Sunday, and Brian Urlacher may be out next week.
Yeah,
and he may be out 2 to 3 weeks. So right when they've got to toughen up, play a hard interdivision schedule. Also, they've got a tough road just to stay in the playoffs, much less seeded it at all.
I agree. And
so I don't know. How healthy is Jay Cutler? How many more times can he get hammered into the turf before he needs to get away from the game?
Well, the thing about it too is that the Vikings, from what I've seen this year, have been playing a kind of old school, grindy.
Adrian Peterson, and let's hand it to Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, that's been their game. Sure. But they've also played pretty tough on defense too. Not consistently, but tough. And so that's their next game. And in the spirit of these pre-offs, I really see, there being some tea leaf reading, some legitimate tea leaf reading that could be done from an old school, grindy, run left, run right, run center kind of game with the Vikes.
Yeah, the whole NFC North, the three teams that are in contention
right.
in the NFC North, their fates could change completely. I believe that two of those teams advance if they play well, but who the division winner is going to be, and is anybody left healthy enough to be competitive in the NFC North? I don't know.
Exactly.
But I do know that the three teams that are competitive have to play each other a total of 6 games out of basically each one of those teams has to play division teams twice,
right,
to get out of the division before the end of the season. The competitive teams. That's tough. Yeah. But whoever survives the NFC North will deserve their spot.
Survive is right.
Yeah.
Well, another question that I think we might learn something about is, do the Giants even deserve a playoff berth? And that's a funny way for me to put it. But, for being Super Bowl champions, the inconsistency of their performance this year has been notable.
Yes.
So, do they even deserve a playoff spot?
Somebody's got to make it from the NFC East. That's after we reseeded the divisions and conferences. That's the rule. Do they deserve it? Not really. Not the way they played to date. They win. They've traditionally won. They've been winning ugly, which is what they do. But they've put. I'm not sure about the Giants either. Here again, another mystery NFC team. Somebody has to make it, of course.
Right.
But they have not played consistently enough. There's some bright spots. They play, they don't turn over the ball a ton. They're a low penalty team, excepting the Washington game, which might be the exception to the rule. But the NFC East has not looked like a proud division this year.
No, it hasn't.
And they have not. This should be an opportunity for a good team to step away, like the Broncos have in the AFC West. The Giants, if they're that good, should have stepped away from the rest of the NFC East.
Well, they have got to be feeling the hot, bated breath of the Washington Redskins on the back of their neck.
Yes.
Because there is the potential for Washington. I mean, if the wheels completely come off the bus for the Giants and everything goes right for Washington, there's a chance for a real reversal of fortune there.
Absolutely. Washington beat them.
Yeah.
So then they split that. So yeah. So Washington's hot and the Giants are. I think it's the easiest way to say what's going on in the NFC East. The rest of the NFC East teams, Philadelphia is the worst team in the NFC, arguably the second worst team in the league. The Dallas is just.
I know. I mean, watching that poor game against the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, it wasn't so much that somebody won that game; it's that someone didn't lose that game.
Yeah. Yes, it's just like the NFC East. Somebody had to win it.
Yeah.
Right? So Dallas just kind of fell backwards across the end zone, and we won, but...
Yes, and Philadelphia Eagles running back, I'm sorry I don't remember your name right now, but, dude, you have got to do better controlling that ball. I can see talent oozing out of your pores. You are an amazing running back, but, you got to carry it close to your body, dude. You're killing yourself. You're killing yourself. Yes, look at that. See the tuck? Keep the tip of the ball all covered up. That's the way you do it. See, even we out here, we fat middle-aged guys. Yes, no, we are fat. Not okay. All right. So the next, or actually, I think the second to last big question I have about the NFC is these Seahawks. Are they for real? I mean, I can't even name a single person on that team right now.
Yeah, no, I can't either. I mean, we didn't even talk about them last week. Somehow we didn't see them coming, and they won that game. And that changed 3-team seedings. That moved the Green Bay up, the Bears down, put the Seahawks in. So Seattle really does have a legitimate chance to make it to the 2 seed. It's a weird thing to say about a 7-5 team, but the only tough team they've got left to play is San Francisco, which does hold a 2 seed. Right. Who knows where San Francisco is going to be in 3 weeks, given all the problems that they're all of a sudden this weird quarterback thing that they're having. The 3 seed right now is Green Bay. They're in the NFC North, and it's a dogfight right now.
Right.
You got the Vikings, you got the Bears, and you got Green Bay, all going at each other.
Right.
And if they fight hard and they kind of split those games out, they'll all kind of drive each other down the seeding. Mm-hmm. And leave room for Seattle to go from somebody we didn't even talk about to sitting at home on the first round bye. Talking about a team that nobody is talking about. I'm hard pressed to name even 2 players on their team right now.
Yeah.
So, hey, it's great. And funny enough, after that Bears game, I don't want to say they're for real, but I saw them play one other game this season. They played pretty hard. Mm-hmm. So they're a team, actually, if they do manage to make their way in, and right now they're seated 5th, they're kind of one of the few teams I'm comfortable with saying they might advance past the first round.
It really is even doubly surprising for me because I haven't even really thought much about the Seahawks since they left the Broncos division with the realignment.
Right.
Back, a decade ago, 15 years ago, something like that?
Houston came on board, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's how bad they've been for that long. So, I don't know. Bizarro world, but you know what? That's what makes these playoffs so much fun.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to say that this is only week 14.
Right.
There are 4 games left to play. A full quarter of the season is still on the board to be won or lost. I mean, anybody, with the exception, I think, of 2 teams right now, could still technically make it in the playoffs.
Right.
And ironically enough, the 2 teams that are eliminated are in the Broncos division. But I have no idea where I was going to go with that, except it's exciting. It's really exciting.
Well, now that I know that you went for the F-bomb, I know that's not going into it. All right. Okay, so my final question of these playoffs is RG3 for real? I'm not even saying Washington, because you know what? I really see this as a case of RG3 living up to his hype and actually raising up what is otherwise a fairly mediocre team. I think that this guy is. I mean, he is, and I say RG3 because he is an exceptional player who, at this point, seems to be living up to all the hype, who is situated on an otherwise fairly mediocre team.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be unfair. I mean, there are plenty of bright spots, plenty of things that, can be built on and, for the future. But the thing about it is RG3 has been obviously the critical difference. I mean, the Washington Redskins last year, I mean, they were Arizona Cardinals quality,
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree completely. I think all credit to the Shanahans, who took a quarterback who can obviously run the football.
Right.
And they've got some strong tailbacks. And they said, hey, what can we do with this? And they've got this kind of weird hybrid college professional system that is the center of the Wildcat, really, at its heart. So, but RG3 makes that work because, yes, he can run with the football, but man, there's a lot of highlights this year of him getting murdered for trying it. That really famous sideline hit that he took that knocked him right out. That basically didn't know where he was for a couple days. So, the Redskins, I got a couple of questions. One, yes, they're running some interesting formations, but they've been running that all year long. And that's great. And that's been working for them. But what happens when they meet a Belichick?
It's funny. That's the first thing that I thought is if they managed in a Super Bowl game, say, right. Pats and Skins.
Sure.
I would really see Belichick murdering them, exposing, every possible flaw.
Exactly. I think they've had the benefit of a soft schedule and a soft division. And they've gone pretty far with it. Are they for real? They're definitely hungry.
Yes.
And they've got the momentum thing right now. It's a little bit of an intangible, but they believe in themselves. And in football, that counts for a lot. They're playing as a unit and not as a bunch of individuals.
Well, we will definitely see what we see with RG3. But in terms of the immediate playoffs, I think that this weekend is for Washington and the Ravens is part of this whole pre-offs narrative here.
I agree.
I think that we're going to really see whether or not Washington is as hungry as we think they ought to be, and whether or not the Ravens can bounce back from a really unfortunate loss.
Yes. On the NFC side, I see basically 12 teams at this point being competitive.
Okay.
For the most part, controlling their own destiny. And ones we haven't spent a lot of time talking about is Dallas, Tampa. We did talk about the Vikes, the Rams, and the Saints. Dallas, they're just not a very good team this year. They're consistently not very good.
Yeah.
Until the owner fires a general manager, happens to be the same person. I think Dallas is stuck. I don't think they're going to go anywhere for quite some time. Tampa, they've started playing hard, but the Broncos game, I think that really just puts them too far back now to make a legitimate run. You can still play spoiler. The Rams, of all the teams that are still in contention, I have this little nifty little spreadsheet I did. Basically, where I said these should be winnable games for teams. These games be contested, and these games will probably lose. The only place for the AFC and the NFC that I have teams losing games is the Rams, losing 3 out of their next 4. This is that little red series of boxes there. I think they stink. I don't even know how they've managed to get any wins at all. And the Saints, I just think that first quarter of the season doomed them. They just got too far to go. They've got the Giants, the Bucks, and Dallas right in a row. All 3 of those are contestable games. And, they got Carolina to finish the season. I mean, the best they can potentially do is 9-7, and I think the top 6 seeds would be past that.
Yeah.
So
I really put the Rams and Cowboys down kind of at the same level of being contenders. I see the Vikings, Bucks, and New Orleans as being in the kind of same pool of kind of outside challengers possibly. But when it really comes right down to it, I think the Seahawks, the Redskins, and the Vikings are really the strongest contenders, for that 6th seed. And of course, as we talked about with the Seahawks, they could go even further than that. That 6th seed could be occupied by the 49ers for all we know.
Sure.
So, all right. Well, so just to wrap up here, I think that we both agree that not much is really going to change with the AFC. We kind of really with a Patriots loss and a Ravens loss, that would open up things completely for the Broncos to occupy that number 2 seed. So, So
I think we're pretty much on the same page, which we were on last week on the AFC.
Right.
I want the Broncos to win. I want New England to lose and Baltimore to lose, but I'm not really confident in that.
Right.
Given all the way down the stretch. So I think that's pretty clear. The NFC, I think we've changed a little bit. So basically, I think the change that you're making from last week is that you're bumping Washington out of the 6 and putting Seattle in the 6th spot. So on my end, I'm gonna change my seating actually a great deal, mostly because of that Seattle win. When Seattle beat the Bears, I think that really shook things up. I had no idea that was going to happen. I would not have bet money on that. So I'm gonna change it up a little bit because of the Seattle win, because of the situation in San Francisco evolving the way it has. I'm going to go with Atlanta at the 1 spot, Seattle at the 2 spot. Okay. So from nobody to the 2 seed. This course by the end of the season. Then the Bears, the Giants, because somebody's got to win the NFC East, and whoever does will have the worst seeding of the division winners. Then San Francisco, and last will be Green Bay. And like you, I've bumped Washington out. I think they've just lost 1 game too many, and Seattle really threw a monkey wrench into everything for everybody. So,
yeah, no doubt. I mean,
of course, next week I could be calling Dallas, Tampa, Minnesota, St. Louis, Detroit. Who knows? Depending on how our playoffs go.
Exactly.
So I'm reserving the right to make a change, but I'm saying Seattle's coming on strong, and Washington's coming on strong too. But they may have waited just 1 game too many to really make an honest run at it. They have to depend on too many other teams to slide in now.
All right.
So, is that it?
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick pat for now. Although, the chance of Seahawks continuing their Cinderella run and knocking the 49ers out entirely is...
Yeah, they could definitely, the flip the script on that.
Yeah.
All right. So, John?
And Jonathan.
Thank you for watching. Enjoy good football.
All right. See ya.
Bye.